Hello, and welcome to episode number 114, in which we're going to go over many of the events that are happening at in Chicago week after next. I just realized that I had thought that I had started this, and I've been, backstage talking to myself for 8 minutes. So there's that. All right, let's get started here. If you're out there in the audience, please let me know. I'm always happy to see that folks are out there checking, hanging out with me on this beautiful Friday afternoon. I wanted to go ahead and get started with the following. So let's go ahead and get my screen shared. There we go. All right. So the first thing I wanted to jump into was the eCHO newsletter, because if you're not subscribed to the eCHO newsletter, this is a great time to do it. And if you want to go subscribe to it, what you do is just go to cilium.io/newsletter, and you're going to find all of the archived news that exists right there in that section. It's curated by Bill Mulligan. I think he does a great job of keeping this stuff really interesting. And if you have articles that you want to share with Bill, you can actually use the send on Slack link here or the submit form to actually have articles included in our newsletter. But there's definitely a lot of great content here. Let's take a look at the most recent one, which was focused primarily on Cilium graduation. It came out October 17th, and it's got a lot of great content around the graduated project within Cilium, or that is Cilium. So the CNCF recently announced the graduation of Cilium, which is the first network plugin to graduate. My good friend Tim Hawkins says, from the earliest days of Kubernetes, we knew the thriving ecosystem was a critical ingredient, and Cilium is perhaps the most visible demonstration of this. So really great stuff. There are also a number of articles out there kind of describing like the path to graduation, how it all went. A lot of folks kind of putting conjecture in and like how things are being used for Cilium. Lots of really great stuff in here. And so I definitely recommend checking it out. Then we get into the technical. One of the first articles that caught my eye was actually an article that references a couple of good friends who recently started, not too recently, but have started a project called Polar Signals, and they're leveraging, and they've developed a product called Parka. So Parka is tooling to basically handle or make continuous profiling of applications easier and easier, so that people can determine, especially application developers can determine at any given time, like where their applications are spending the time. And so they can actually help optimize and help find problems in software that would otherwise be very difficult to actually find. If you haven't checked out Polar Signals, it's definitely worth checking out. Their blog is really great. They do a weekly video thing as well, where they actually profile different things, including the Kubernetes environments. Really great stuff. Some of the stuff that I was actually really impressed with was their recent announcement of being able to support Ruby and Python kind of natively in the Parka agent, rather than having to actually have a lot of prerequisites installed before you can actually understand what's happening with those structured languages. So pretty cool stuff. If you're writing Python and Ruby code and you want to do continuous profiling, gotta check that out. It's really great. There's a couple of great articles talking about XDP, which is the accelerated data path that allows us to accelerate traffic through network interfaces. Really good stuff around the net observability eBPF agent in the ecosystem. Somebody has recently written an article about Cilium versus Calico, which I thought was actually, did a pretty good job of remaining unbiased. And I think it has a pretty good summary takeaway. There is on the platform engineering trends in cloud native, written by an interview by our Q&A with Thomas Graff, which I think was a really great Q&A. Kind of shows how our fearless leader is thinking about the world of platform engineering in general, which I think is really great. In the how-to, actually, even just recently on this show, I've been doing a lot of work on showing people how to migrate between different plugins and the and Cilium in Azure. Hey GK, glad to see you. Welcome. Yeah, I did love the TGIK thing, and so I'm still doing it here in the Echo office hours. So I'm glad you're here. There's a tutorial on how to set up Tetragon and trigger canary tokens. There is a great write-up on how monitoring TCP retransmissions with eBPF. We actually do this automatically inside of the Enterprise Tetragon product. There's some new video content, if that's the way you want to learn. There's great stuff in here. There is a recent addition of Layer 2 announcements with Cilium. There is a great video on mutual authentication with Cilium. We get into setting up the eBPF, an eBPF dev environment under 5 minutes. Lots of really great content in here, including things from the Container Days talks, which includes a service mesh with FMS, Cilium Wars, scaling up your network with Jedi, like Cilium handling techniques, next level Kubernetes networking with Cilium. Lots of really great talks from Container Days. And then, of course, we get into the events. Now, I'm going to try and take this in an order of events that are about to happen in the next week at Kubecon, because it's going to get pretty wild. There is a lot happening, and I'm really looking forward to it. But my gosh, there's so much happening. So the first thing I want to share with you is November 4th and 5th, which is the weekend before the week of KubeCon. We have Cloud Native Rejects. Now, if you haven't attended Cloud Native Rejects, I cannot say enough about this particular conference. It's a great one. Cloud Native Rejects, their premise is that if you were rejected from the KubeCon proper, like you didn't get your talk in, then you could submit that rejected talk to Cloud Native Rejects, and those rejected talks will be considered again. So it's like the B-side conference, and you can get those talks in and actually get your talk presented at Cloud Native Rejects. They usually book a really great facility somewhere very close to or reasonably close to KubeCon proper, and it's just a great opportunity to meet up with so many of your friends and peers in the Cloud Native ecosystem that I really try to make it every year, because I just get to see so many of my friends there. It's great. If you want to look at the schedule, let's take a look at the schedule and see what talks are happening. There's a ton of stuff happening. I will be there, by the way. So if you do come say hello to me. Mr. Justin Cormack, a good friend, talking about attestations, the atoms of the supply chain. We have build your own APM instead of buying one. We have know your own ingredients. Security starts with the source, which I agree with. We have Mr. Kyle Quest, a good friend, understanding exploitability with VEX, EPSS, and other standard frameworks. We have Choose Your Own Adventure, the perilous passage to production, with two of my absolute favorite people, Victor Farsick and Whitney Lee. I'll actually be meeting again with Whitney next week to talk about Cilium on Enlightening. So if you are going to come check that out, that'll be great. Ryan Jarvinson and Josh Wood, two incredible friends from CoreOS, going to be talking about backstage software templates, scaffolding for cloud native environments. That should be a good one. And this is what I mean, just so many amazing folks submitting talks to get the word out on so many different amazing technologies. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I do recommend that if you can make the time happen, it's very much worth being here and learning all about these folks. Next, I wanted to share with you this page, which is isovalent.com/events. And the isovalent.com/events will have a link to all of the happenings that are happening in our ecosystem around Cilium and the isovalent environments. So I just finished session 2 of Elevating Kubernetes Visibility with Cilium. There'll be one more session coming up on November 1st, so definitely come check that out. We also have CiliumCon coming back to KubeCon, and CiliumCon is going to be another really great one. So CiliumCon is a day basically entirely dedicated to folks who are leveraging Cilium and eBPF in their ecosystem and telling the stories of how that went for them and what their experience was. let's take a look at the schedule. There are quite a few good talks, including a really good talk that I'm really looking forward to by my good friend Joseph Sandoval, who works at Adobe and is also really well known in our community. He's going to be teaming up with Tony Gosselin and talking about from imagination to implementation inside Adobe's practical guide, production grade deployment with Cilium. We, of course, are going to be co-hosted by Liz Rice and Laurent Barnell. So excited to see that. We have some folks from Super Orbital talking about controlling access to external APIs with Cilium, talking about Layer 7 network policy. A sponsored keynote, Advancing Cilium Within the Kubernetes Environment by Edith Levine. We have a sponsored keynote, The Effortless Mutual Authentication with Christine Kim from Isovalent, one of my coworkers. And we have a break. And we have Marino talking about bridging gaps with BGP and Cilium. And we have another great talk about using Cilium CNI and ClickHouse Cloud, and just so many great things. I'm really excited to see Natalia and John talk about Tetragon again. Tetragon, I feel like it's just one of those areas where we're only just kind of learning about all the things that we can do with it, and there's just so much more we can do with it. So every time I see these two just teaming up on talks, it's always kind of mind-boggling to me how much I learned in those environments or in those talks. Utaro and Danivan are going to be talking about BGP as well. We have, what else do we have here? We have Hamanth talking from Datadog, talking about what to expect running at scale. Day 2 with Cilium. And these are the sorts of things I was talking about. Like this is like really the biggest value of these is like, bring users of Cilium together, kind of showing what others are doing in this space and kind of helping kind of open the mind about like what is actually happening with Cilium in production environments. Next up at Kubecon, there are a number of really great things happening, including this, right? So right here, when you go to the Cilium or isovalent.com/events, if you click on the Kubecon link, you're going to be presented with this, right? You can actually schedule a meeting with the Isovalent team, and you can request that meeting at any time. And that meeting could be with any of us, right? Thomas Graff, Dan Wentland, Liz Rice, or myself. So if you want to hear more about Cilium and like what is possible with it, or Tetragon, or any of those things, definitely request a meeting with us. We're really looking forward to meeting you there in person. We also have a number of talks, included in other zero-day events, right? We have a lightning talk, Get Going Fast with Cilium and Argo. We have Cloud Native Telco Day, Evolution of Application Visibility for Telcos from Programmable Switches to Cloud Native by Thomas Graff. Looking forward to that one. On Tuesday, a practical guide to eBPF licensing. We also have When is a secure connection not encrypted and other stories by Liz Rice. Thomas Graff will be talking about service mesh battle scars, technology, timing, and trade-offs. Intro and deep dive into Kubernetes SIG scalability on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we have eBPF for observability. We have a talk on Gateway API by my good friend Nick Young. The eBPF for observability is one of our observability super sharp folks here at Isovalent. Anna will be presenting on that one. So definitely check that out if you're interested in learning more about observability and what we can do with it. Mr. Daniel Borkman will be talking about turning performance up to 11, Cilium meta devices, which are like a new kernel feature. That means that we don't necessarily have to use VETH devices to actually route traffic back and forth. Pretty exciting stuff. I'm really looking forward to that talk. I know that he presented something also similar last year, so probably a little bit more detail on how that all works now. Painting a picture again with Natalia and John Fastman should be a really great one. Documentary film, and this is one that I am super excited about. This documentary film, I'm sure you've seen us talking about it out there, but it is presenting eBPF, unlocking the kernel, and kind of the history of eBPF and how it came into such an incredible light and what's available to and what's possible with the world. On Thursday, we have Keynote Hot Dogs. The Technical Oversight Committee is on a roll. We're going to talk about the TOC. I'm going to invite some great leaders from our technical advisory groups to come up on stage and join me for a panel. It should be a really great talk. It's about 15 minutes. I'm really looking forward to presenting that. Then we have Contrib Fest, which happens from 11 to 12:30. We have Service Mesh from Kubernetes and Beyond with Liz and Thomas. Really should be a great one. Scaling Kubernetes networking from 1 to 5 to 10K with Marcel Ziba. All of this and we have some book signings, right? So an illustrated book, the Illustrated Children's Guide to eBPF will be signed by Mr. Bill Mulligan. We have Security Observability being signed by Natalia and Jed, and we have Learning eBPF signed by Liz Rice. And all of that, we also have the HiveMind Mingle, which happens on Wednesday. If you're coming to KubeCon and you haven't got any plans for Wednesday night, please sign up for this. It's going to be such a blast. It's at the rooftop of the View Hotel, or at the View rooftop, and it should be just an incredible event where we pull so many people from our community to come be a part of it. Make sure you RSVP to secure your spot. It should be an absolute blast. What else? So there is actually another thing I wanted to share with you. Let me see if I can find it. So we talked about that. So I wanted to share, some of a little insight about something else that I am absolutely excited about coming up, which is at KubeCon, we're going to have a Cilium event area where we can actually take you through different labs, including some labs that actually just are all about consumption, just kind of showing you how these things work, that really give you a view into how all of the different capabilities of Cilium and Tetragon can be used, right? And so what this represents is a beautiful map of all of the people taking labs today, right? Our entry point, right? The eBPF ship, learning about eBPF. Then we get into Cilium Harbor. And from Cilium Harbor, we can go pretty much anywhere. We can go into Observability Island. We can go into Mesh Island. We can go to Networking Island. We can go Networking Security or Runtime Security Island. There's just a ton of great content. And at the event itself, you're going to see lots of these bees, and these bees represent individuals that are going through the different labs in our event center, and you'll be able to actually you'll be able to get badges, you'll be able to get swag, all of that stuff just by coming and participating with us in the lab environments there at KubeCon. So that's where I'll be spending any time that I have available. I'll be there unless I'm actually chatting with somebody about Cilium or eBPF or any of that stuff. So I hope that if you're coming, you're going to come definitely check out the Cilium event area. All right. I think, one more thing. Well, we talked about the KubeCon. We've talked about KubeCon and the things that we're doing, but I definitely want to highlight, all of the other stuff that's happening with KubeCon. So if you go to their schedule, there's a great way for, first of all, if you go to the isurveillance.com/events thing, and again, you click down here on these things, I do want to call out that it's made it pretty easy to just add things to your schedule. So if any of these talks are things that you're interested in seeing, you can just click on that and it will take you to your schedule, and you can add these things to your schedule so that you can actually use the app and understand what talks you actually wanted to go see, and you can add those things to your schedule. You do have to log in to do it, but it is actually pretty great to be a part of that, or to make it wrap your head around what you're going to do for the day. Clearly, one of the, in my opinion, the most valuable thing at KubeCon is the hallway track, right? So just the ability to come and see people and say hello and meet people for the first time. That's, in my opinion, some of the most valuable work that we do at KubeCon the entire time we're there. That said, one of the things I do want to extend to all of you who might be watching this or who have seen it is, if you see me, definitely come say hello to me. If I can help introduce you to others, it is absolutely my pleasure to do. I love actually meeting new people and hearing more about like what they're interested in and what they're exploring. You'll see in a lot of the ways that I describe myself that I'm a student of perspective, and that means that for me, it's about understanding like the world the way that you see the world. It's not just understanding the world the way that I see the world. I need the perspective of others to really see things that I can't see without those things. So I really hope that I get to meet many of you there and that we will have the opportunity to meet. Let me take a look at this comment. Ah, okay. Anyway, I wanted to say thank you again for attending today. And now I'm going to bow out and let you get to your weekend. If you have any questions, you know how to reach me. I am Maui Lion everywhere. So you can catch me on Cilium Slack. You can catch me on x.com. You can catch me, pretty much everywhere as Maui Lion. And I hope to see you at the convention in just a week more. I'll talk to you later.